Hello, dear children. Welcome to Superior English. This is Simi Kaur bringing forth before you the poem from Flamingo, My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Kamala Das is a sensitive writer who captures the complex subtleties of human relationships in lyrical idiom. My Mother at 66 is an example. Alright, a little warming up before I begin with the explanation. What is the poem all about? It is about the distressing and terrible effects of aging. Aging is a natural process. Everybody ages, but the process robs us, depletes us of our beauty, energy, and vitality. Look at your grandparents. Do they have the same energy as you have? Is their skin glowing and radiant as a 20-year-old? The answer is no. Why? Because with age, your skin sags, becomes wrinkled, your energy depletes, it decreases. So, children, 1. The poem deals with the shocking effects of aging. 2. It deals with the distress and sadness of a daughter who is finding it difficult to come to terms with the fact that her mother is aging, thereby drawing closer to death. So, now children, let's get started with the explanation. Stanza 1. Driving from parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, dozed, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Explanation. The poet Kamala Das is on a road journey from her home to Cochin airport. In the journey, her mother, 66, is seated beside her. The poet is probably seeing her mother after a long time and is shocked to see the drastic change in her appearance. Her face looks ashen like that of a corpse. What is a corpse, children? A corpse is a dead body. And how does a dead body look like? Because there is no blood circulation, the body becomes dark, dull, and colorless. The poet feels that her mother's face is ashen like that of a corpse, pale, dull, and colorless, and then a painful realization dawns on her that she was as old as she looked, that is, she was 66 and she looked of that age. The ashen color of the face could be 1 because of age, 2 because of loneliness or lack of moral support. Her mother dozed off, that is, slept off, open mouthed, which was quite natural in her age to feel drowsy in a moving car. Children, there are 2 similes in this stanza. 1. Her face ashen like that of a corpse. 2. She was as old as she looked. Do keep this in mind as you might get a question. Identify the figure of speech in these lines, which you can answer as the figure of speech in these lines is simile. Stanza 2. But soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. Explanation. The thought of her mother aging, her health deteriorating, was giving the poet immense pain. So she tried to divert herself by looking out of the window. And what does she see out of the window of the car? Young trees who appear to be sprinting. What is sprinting? Running very fast. When we are in a moving car, the objects outside appear to be running very fast behind. Another thing to be noted here is that the poet is mentioning young trees. Not trees, but young trees. Here the poet is trying to compare the youth, energy and vigor of the trees with the old age, weakness and spiritlessness of her mother. It also signifies the fleeting or passing of time, how time flies and her mother has grown old and weak. Out of the window of the car, she also sees merry children spilling out of their homes. Spilling, that is overflowing, bouncing with energy and enthusiasm, and wanting to enjoy life to the fullest. So, merry children here symbolizes happiness, energy, enthusiasm, jest, and liveliness. Again, this image was in complete contrast to that of the poet's mother's age and condition. This image probably also reminds the poet of her own childhood days, where there were no worries in her life, only happiness and excitement. So, both the images bring out the contrast between the old and the young, between the spiritlessness and liveliness, between weakness and agility, between gloom and radiance. Stanza 3. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, worn, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. Explanation. So, after having done the security check, standing a few yards away, the poet looked at her mother again to bid a final goodbye. She saw that her mother appeared worn, weak, and pale, giving the impression of illness and exhaustion, lacking enthusiasm and energy. Here, the poet uses simile to compare her mother with the late winter's moon. I looked again at her, worn, pale, as a late winter's moon. Remember, children, simile uses the words like or as to draw a comparison. Simile is a figure of speech which is used to make writing more powerful and descriptive and add depth and meaning. So, here, if you are asked to identify the figure of speech, you will write simile. Now, why does the poet compare her mother to the late winter's moon? Answer. The late winter's moon is dull, pale, and hazy, lacking glow and brightness. So is the poet's mother, who has lost her bloom and radiance because she is aging. Seeing her mother's pale and haggard like condition, the poet experiences the old familiar ache, the old familiar pain. What is the pain? The pain of seeing her mother turning old, haggard, depleted of energy and strength, vulnerable and helpless. Her childhood fear emerges, appears. And what is her childhood fear, children? The fear of her mother aging and dying, leaving her alone in the world. This insecurity instills fear in the daughter's mind, for she does not want to part with her mother, who is very dear to her. Stanza 4. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma." All I did was smile and smile and smile. Explanation. The poet is overpowered by a strong feeling of guilt, remorse, and helplessness on leaving her mother at this state. She is filled with fear and insecurity, but does not express her emotions or show her anxiety to her mother, lest her mother gets tensed. On the contrary, she tells her, "See you soon, Amma," a positive note that they would meet very soon. The daughter in the poet was thoroughly agonized, was feeling extremely sorrowful, but she put up a brave front, donned a smile on her face, and kept smiling till her mother was out of sight. When we are deeply hurt, agonized, or grieved, children, before somebody, we try to smile and smile just to hide our anxiety and sorrow, don't we? So the poet did exactly like that. Now, children, let us do the questions and answers. The first question, question number 1. I saw my mother beside me, doze, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away. A. What worried the poet when she looked at her mother? 1 mark. Answer. The ashen like face of her mother, pale and colorless, worried the poet. B. Why was there pain in her realization? The fact that her mother was 66 and looked old, pale, drained, and exhausted pained the poet. C. Why did she put that thought away? 1 mark. The thought was giving her pain and agony, so she put that thought away. D. Identify the figure of speech used in these lines. The figure of speech used in these lines is simile. Question number 2. Why did the poet start looking out? What does her gesture suggest? Here, gesture means the action or the process of looking out. This is 2 marks. Answer. Her mother's pathetic condition disturbed the poet's mind, so she looked out to divert herself. Now change the para for the second question. What does her gesture suggest? Her gesture suggested that she loved her mother immensely and could not bear to continue seeing her in this condition. Question number 3. Why has the poet brought out the image of merry children spilling out of their homes? 2 marks. This image probably reminded the poet of her own childhood, which was devoid of any kind of worry. They also signified youth and vitality, which the poet felt was in complete contrast to her mother, who seemed old and spiritless. Question number 4. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, worn, pale as a late winter's moon. A. Explain pale as a late winter's moon. 2 marks. Answer. The winter's moon is dull, hazy, and pale. So is the poet's mother, who is 66 and appears to be pale, colorless, weak, and exhausted. B. What is the poet's mental state? 2 marks. The poet is deeply grieved and feels the same familiar pain, the pain of seeing her mother aging, old and weak, and the childhood fear reappears, the fear of losing her mother who is so dear to her. So, children, this brings us to the end of the session. A request to you would be to understand the chapter and not mug it up. You will be able to answer any question if you understand it and if you actually feel the emotions of the poet. The message is profound, children, and that is, take care of the elderly, the old, and the weak, for these are our values and morals which we treasure and are so proud of. Thank you so much.